Okay, let's begin the demonstration by drawing the front views of all three of these clocks by George Sowden. Let's start with the rectangle tool. The rectangle tool allows you to make any kind of rectangle. Clicking and dragging, but holding the shift key will give you a square. Okay, so what we want to do is draw a rectangle which is 100 millimeters across, and the way we can be sure that we're getting 100 millimeters in its width is by going up here where we've got the dimensions. So where it says width, we'll just make sure that's 100, and we want it a little taller than it is wide, so let's go 110 in height. So if you notice this clock number 1, it's got the bottom half is relatively tall to its width, so I think that's about right, 110 to 100 by 100. Then what we need to do is just to taper in the top sides. So we've got why don't we first create the top as well. So we hold this time the shift key because it's a square shape up the top, and that's about right. What we need to do is center both of these so we can taper in the bottom half. So we want to introduce the ruler, which is Command R, and then once you go into the ruler, you can actually drag a guide, place the guide in the center of one of the two shapes, and we have one shape that is centered on the guide. Now we can go to the selection tool right at the very top. It's the black arrow, not to be confused with the direct selection tool, which is the white arrow. I'll introduce that later. But what we want to do is have the bottom rectangle moved across, so it's aligned with the, I'm just using the arrows on the keyboard. There we go, so they're nicely aligned. Now we'd like to move on to the direct selection tool and click off, then click on, and then simply using the arrows on the keyboard, just shift across until we've aligned it, and then to the other side. Nice. Let's go back to the selection tool, the black arrow. If we zoom in, oops, that's zooming out, which is Command minus. Command plus is zooming in. Let's just move it across. I'm doing this on the mouse. It's not perfect. So we want to bring both these things together. So just put that down. I'll go back to the direct selection tool and just taper this a little further. That's it. And this one. Nice. Okay, so we've got our face. Sorry, we've got the front view. We haven't done the face yet. And that's that. For those of you who are doing the clock number 1. Now let's do clock number 2. Clock number 2 is basically, it appears to be two squares stacked, one bigger than the other. So again, it has to be no wider and no smaller than 100 millimeters. So we'll just guess whatever that may be, then correct it here. But this time we want the height and the width to be the same. So we'll click on this link, so it will constrain the width and height proportions, and then just bring that down to 100. Okay, so that's that. Again, we need to bring a guide, line it up with the center of the object, and then draw our second square. I think I'll start on top of the current one, and I think that looks about right. I need now just to align it with the center guide. Done. Let's click off it, and look, lo and behold, there is no line. So those of you who are new to Illustrator, all this simply means is that there was no selection of stroke color, which is on the left palette. It's this little square with a hole in it. You can just click up on here and we'll give you the default fill and stroke. The fill is the white square. You can change these colors, and the stroke is this black line. So stroke refers to line, the fill refers to the internal color. Okay, let's do the last one. So as I'm moving through this, I'm going through the layers, just knocking off the visibility of these, moving up the layers so I can show you in the same space in here, each of these drawings. So it looks like this clock number 3 is 2 squares and a cylinder. We're drawing the cylinder as a cubic form. Okay, so it's 2 squares and a rectangle. Again, we need a 100 by 100 square. Actually, in fact, this time we need 2. But we'll do a cheat this time. So just click, and here we have a little dialog box that comes up once you've clicked the mouse. Make sure that the chain's on, and we'll just type in 100. And then we have our square. We want 2 of these. So we can go Command C, Command F. Simply means pasting in front, or pasting exactly where you copied from. And now I'm moving in, and I'm using the Shift key to move in big chunks. If I don't hold the Shift key, I go in little moves. Big moves with the Shift key, little moves without. Combination of both will get you there. So we need to move this further up. And there's a rectangle in the middle. Again, let's drag a guide, and we can now place our third shape. That looks about right. Again, if you want to copy any effect from one element to another, simply go to the eyedropper, and voila. Okay, let's get rid of the guides. Getting rid of the guides is Command:. So now we have our 3.